Tensions are escalating between the United States and Russia. President Trump says he has ordered, I should say, 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned in the, quote, appropriate regions after what he called highly provocative statements from Russia's former president. Trump has expressed frustration with Russia in recent weeks as he pushes for it to reach a ceasefire with Ukraine. And CBS News Pentagon reporter Eleanor Watson joins me now. Ellie, good to see you. So how did we get here? Get us up to speed on this.
Well, Tom, this is part of an escalation in rhetoric online between the former Russian president and the current American president that could have some real-world consequences. It started on Monday of this week when President Trump shortened his deadline for Russia to accept a ceasefire or suffer economic consequences to just 10 days, down from the 50 days he initially set earlier this summer. That prompted a response from the former Russian president, who said that each new ultimatum is a step closer towards war. And then the former Russian president also reminded President Trump of the nuclear capabilities that Russia still has. That prompted the post from President Trump today with a reminder of his own to Medvedev of American capabilities.
So it's been a war of words, but I think one of the million-dollar questions here that everyone is wondering when they see this headline, do we know any more about where these submarines will actually be positioned?
The president's post today was pretty vague. He didn't even distinguish between whether these are nuclear-armed submarines or nuclear-powered submarines. If they're nuclear-armed submarines, there are at any given time a few of those on patrol, but the range of the missiles they carry are so great that the submarines themselves could be in the Atlantic, the Pacific, or the Indian Ocean and still be capable of hitting Russia. If he's talking about nuclear-powered submarines armed with conventional cruise missiles, there are generally 2 of those in the Atlantic and 2 in the Pacific, and those cruise missiles have a range of about 1,500 miles. So the appropriate regions doesn't have to be near Russia necessarily to pose a threat to Russia.
Yeah, that's a really good point to make. As I mentioned, leading into this Q&A, this is all really stemming from efforts to get a ceasefire deal between Russia and Ukraine. So remind us where those talks stand.
They've essentially been stalled since the beginning of the summer, which has prompted President Trump's increasing frustration when he's been making public calls for Russia to wind down the war, and instead Russia continues to escalate. He mentioned yesterday that maybe Special Envoy Steve Witkoff could talk to Russia in the coming week ahead of that looming ultimatum. But remember, the initial deadline was 50 days, and then the president shortened it because he said essentially that he thinks he knows what's going to happen.
We'll certainly be watching this story very closely, as so many other people will around the world. Eleanor Watson at the Pentagon, thank you for breaking it all down for us.